And we back. Welcome back to another episode of the Get Buggers podcast, powered by Hard Basketball. First of all, congratulations to Greer for winning a region championship. Now, we got to get into this game, man. Like I said, I was at this game, and I know I promised the TR video would come out today, but this was a game, man. This was a game. And I'm not gonna lie. At first, I was kind of when I first I got there actually at the beginning of the game this time, and it was kind of looking like a dud at first. It was very low scoring, probably like 10-14 at halftime, or what, like 14-12 or something very low at halftime. But it was a very close game and a defensive game, I would say. There were stops after stops, and it was basically just whoever got more stops won the game. This was a game of defense, and even the score finishing out, I believe it was in the 40s. It was in the 40s, and the Greer Yellow Jackets were able to come out with the victory and giving them a region championship. After last year, and I kept talking about this, man. They had a very good chance on winning region this year, and even though last year was a down year, they came through, they pulled together, and they made it happen. First highlight players I want to shout out for sure from this game, Amari Anderson, 10th grader. I feel like I've talked about him a good amount of times already, but just making big plays down the stretch. I feel like at first, at the beginning of the game, was a little off. And honestly, I forgot to mention this was actually my first time, I believe, watching Greer. And I've been around the area where they're playing. My team even played in their tournament, but actually watching them play, I believe this was the first time I really got to watch them play, and just seeing his aggression. Amari's very aggressive, and he's looking to score, which I have no problem with because he can score the ball at will most of the time, and he made some big plays down the stretch of the game. So yes, looking at the score, they won 45-42 over Riverside, giving them and Wade Hampton, because Wade Hampton did beat Eastside, they will, I believe, be co-region champs. But nonetheless, it was a tough fought game all the way through. It was back and forth a lot in the first two quarters, I would say. In the third is really where Greer got the lead, and they might have even gotten up by 11 at one point. But Riverside didn't stop fighting. I will give them that. Riverside did not stop fighting. They made their run at the end of the game. Rylan Jones hit a one-legged three-point runner, I guess, with like 5 seconds to go, putting them down by three, I believe. But then it was Greer's ball. They hit the Riverside had hit the three. Ryland had hit the three, so it was Greer's ball. And when Greer took it out, they got it to Amari, fouled him, and when he went to the line, he actually missed it. So then Julian Turbe grabs the rebound, quick timeout, probably 2 seconds on the clock at this point. So they go over what they want to run, but then the mistake at the end, and this is not the only reason why Greer. Obviously, there's 4 quarters. It's a long game, and I cannot put the blame on Ryland. I believe he was the one taking the ball. I cannot put the blame all on him. Maybe the coach wanted him to run the baseline, but he did run the baseline, and it resulted in a turnover. Greer's basketball with just 2 seconds to go. And I don't know if it was him mentally or if the coach might have told him to run the baseline, because that could be confusing since Greer hadn't scored. Riverside was unable to run the baseline, and so this resulted in Greer having the ball, and I think Riverside just checked out. Braden Lice gets an open layup and he scores, and that basically is the game. But a few other key points from the game: Mikey Williams, one of the best freshmen in the area. I gotta be straight up. He had top 3 freshmen in the area. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. This man's been. I've heard that he's been dominating the past couple of weeks, but I got to witness it, and it's fun, man. He's fun to watch. He does. There's times when he might be maybe a little out of control, but I mean, he just turned 15, and I mean, he's the only freshman. He doesn't even come out the game. So for Coach Arnold, the coach of Riverside, having this much trust in him is huge, man. Because to be honest, I believe him and Julian are the only ones that don't come out the game, and Julian D1 guy. So I mean, he's in a big school, and he's filling big shoes, and I think he's doing really well. That spin move is deadly. I will give him that. That spin move is deadly. Julian, I feel like there were some times, yeah, I'm not gonna call him out. He made some tough buckets. He made some tough buckets, but there were some free throws down the stretch that might have been critical, that were pretty critical, but he played a solid game and hit some shots when need be. I do wish Drew would have knocked down a few more threes. I'm always, I'm big. I've been big on Drew actually, and I talked about how he's been a real pleasant surprise for the amount of his consistency in hitting shots. He got to his midi pretty well today, but just a few more threes to drop. It just seemed like a tough scoring night for both teams, honestly. I mean, there really weren't that many threes made, but I must talk about the guy who really was my first time ever watching, Mac from Greer, man. I gotta shout out Mac, man. A hustle player, creates extra possessions by getting rebounds, and is the shortest player on the court, basically at all times. Probably about 5'6", 5'7". Gotta show love to my man. Actually made a putback at the end of the third, I believe. And this was huge, man. It really gave him momentum. I know Riverside did make a run in the fourth, but when he made this bucket, it really gave them momentum. I didn't know who he was before going. I had heard of him. I talked to Coach Dean before, and I had heard of him. But for me to really see that he does play with a lot of heart, and he can really play. He creates good possessions for Greer, and he's very unselfish, and he knows how to play his role. Very good role player for Greer, and should not go unnoticed. Also, like the aggression Braden Lights possessed, and Braden Dura. Braden Dura made a huge three in the third, which really caused a lot of momentum. And then which was followed up by Amari Anderson, an Amari Anderson dunk. He probably had like three on the night, which is wild. But yeah, their starting five is pretty lethal. Even Traylon, another guy that's very that you can at least count on. Doesn't score a bunch of points, but is just reliable overall, and can sit down on defense. But that pretty much covers the game. I mean, Greer from the third into the fourth. I don't believe they ever lost the lead. I think the closest they ever were in the fourth was 2 points. So it was a good game all the way down to the wire, and just a good season overall by Greer. So that made them finish, I believe, at 6-2, giving them tied up for Wade, and they did just, I believe, do co-region champs. So congrats to Greer for that again. Riverside, also a good season, man. 5-3 on region. That's not bad. Still going in as the third seed, and they best of luck to them in the playoffs. I mean, this will be fun. This will be fun to see how all these teams do. Even Eastside, although they did lose tonight, putting them at 3-5 in region, they'll be fun to watch in playoffs, no doubt. With guys like Justin Ray and Matt over there. But that will pretty much do it. Not a very long episode, but I just had to come on and give my instant reaction to the game last night. I guess tonight, since it is the night of. It was a fun game. It was a fun game. Low scoring but gritty for sure. Low scoring but gritty. And with all that being said, I'll see you on the next one. Shout out to Mac and Amari, the whole Braden, Zay, and the rest of the Traylon, the rest of the Greer team, Coach Dean, um, dang, all the whole Greer committee, man. They really put it together, and I couldn't be without Coach Liferidge, who I failed to mention, the head coach of Greer. Shout out to him for trusting in his team, especially after last year, the down year. This team really is something special, and can't wait to see the future. Can't wait to see them in the playoffs. See you on the next one. Peace.